Born with cerebral palsy, he landed a job at a major company with just 3 sentences. Give me your worst route. Give me the area nobody wants. What have you got to lose? If I can sell it, you're a hero. The manager's doubt turned to emotion, and this do-or-die declaration won him his first sales job. His name was Bill Porter. Soon, Bill knocked on his first door and was met by the furious barking of a dog that sent him fleeing. At the second house, the couple were too busy arguing with a neighbor about trimming a pine tree to notice him. At the third door, he sincerely pitched his product, but received a cold, firm rejection. Still, Bill walked on, determination unshaken, and tried the next house. When he smiled, his appearance startled a young boy, who ran away crying, and in the commotion, the family's little dog slipped out the door. Wave after wave of failure crashed over him, trying to put out the fire of his resolve. Just as he was about to give up, he pictured his mother. Fate had played a cruel joke at his birth. A medical error left him permanently disabled, but had also given him a mother who never gave up on him. Her voice echoed in his ears. It takes people a wee bit longer to warm up to you. Just be patient, patient and persistent. That memory gave him the strength to face the next door. This time, luck finally glanced his way. A kind woman listened to his halting sales pitch. Without many words, she quietly pulled out a bill and handed it to him. "Oh, please take it." "I don't need charity," he replied, "but you need spot remover. Look at your coat. It's appalling." Later, exhausted on a park bench, he opened the lunch his mother had packed. On the sandwich, written in ketchup, were 2 words: patience on one side and persistence on the other. He smiled. His mother had seen straight through his vulnerability. To him, these weren't just words, but a fortress for his spirit, built from her love. They were the strongest fortress for his spirit, built from her love. He ate the lunch she'd packed, swallowing his frustration and defeat along with it, then stood up and walked to the next door. At a high-end apartment building, Bill slipped past security and knocked. This time, he was greeted by a wealthy woman with kind eyes. Though his nerves twisted his face and slurred his words, the sincerity in his eyes was clear. She listened, placed an order, and even offered him a glass of juice. In that instant, all his bitterness was washed away by this unexpected sweetness. He had finally made his first sale, and on the way home, every step felt light, as if he were flying. With his first commission, Bill took his mother to his favorite restaurant, but their joy was shattered by a man at the next table who mocked Bill's movements and speech, drawing cruel snickers. His mother, swallowing her anger, refused to argue. Instead, she chose to defend his dignity with one elegant, powerful gesture. She calmly took out a beautiful box. Inside was a golden pocket watch engraved with a short inscription, an award his father had earned for being Salesman of the Year 3 years in a row. "He was a very handsome man," she said softly, "and you look just like him." Her words struck Bill like lightning, destroying his self-pity. He realized he wasn't a helpless disabled man in need of charity. He was heir to his father's legacy. That realization built a permanent fortress of dignity around him. With new confidence, he began solving problems creatively. To make up for scaring the little boy, he didn't just apologize. He returned with a puppet glove and put on a funny show that made the child laugh, winning the mother's respect. He used sharp observation to win over a greenhouse owner, cleverly persuading the owner's friend to sign a large order. During another call, he protected a family by gently leading a child away before the boy could see his father with another woman. Bill wasn't just selling products, he was winning hearts. The core of it all was his unshakable dignity and his refusal to bow to fate. Yet life's trials didn't stop. His mother, who had always waited in the same spot for him, began missing their meetings. He would come home to find she had gone to Washington for shoes, a place with no shoe stores. She'd smile and say she was making his favorite lamb chops while thawing chicken. When Bill asked why she hadn't called when she got lost, she stared blankly and said, "I don't remember the number." In that moment, Bill understood. The woman who had sheltered him from every storm was slowly being consumed by Alzheimer's, turning back into a helpless child. He placed her in a nursing home and faced the crushing weight of life alone. Without his mother, he struggled even to tie his own shoes and often survived on just milk. Yet he still repaid the world with quiet kindness. The bus driver would wait a few extra seconds for him. A hotel maid would straighten his tie. A janitor would kneel to fix his laces. And in return, Bill would slip a small tip into each helper's pocket, protecting his own sense of dignity. One stormy night, a neighbor offered him a ride, but he stubbornly refused and trudged through the downpour, step by painful step, to his mother's nursing home. When he pushed open the door, he found her neglected and uncared for. His heart sank, guilt and anger churning inside him. He used his meager savings to hire a private aide for her, but soon, due to the aide's negligence, he discovered his mother lying on the backyard ground in her pajamas. Filled with remorse, he had no choice but to move her to a more expensive professional facility. When his mother, full of guilt, said, "I'm a burden to you," Bill looked at her and smiled. "Well, now we're even." For the next 8 years, armed with the patience and persistence his mother had given him, Bill blazed a trail in the sales world, becoming one of his company's top performers. The kind, wealthy woman who had given him his first break became his most loyal customer, always greeting him warmly. But Bill, absorbed in his work, never noticed the look in her eyes, an affection deeper than that of a customer. He always left in a hurry, missing the sadness in her gaze as he walked away. He spun like a relentless top, always pushing forward, but he could not outrun his mother's worsening illness. Her memory faded, and she often mistook him for his long-dead father. To afford her surgery, he was forced to arrange a payment plan. When a well-meaning colleague suggested he applied for disability benefits, Bill's pride erupted. "I'm working. I have a job. I'm a salesman." Years of carrying his heavy sample case had badly deformed his spine, and his doctor advised him to hire an assistant. Thus, Shelley, a warm, funny college student, entered his life like a ray of sunshine. A fleeting, accidental glimpse behind a broken bathroom door stirred something new in Bill's heart. But just as their friendship was deepening, a call from the nursing home brought devastating news. His mother had passed away. At the funeral, he seemed hollow, as if his soul had been taken from his body. Only later, during a sales call, when he saw a mother cradling a sleeping baby, did the floodgates of his grief finally burst open. Time went on. Bill eventually found the courage to hint at his feelings for Shell. "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, Shell." She understood, but the age gap and their family-like bond made it impossible to return his love. She could only smile and pull him onto the dance floor, hiding the awkwardness in celebration. On Shell's graduation day, a young man lifted her high into the air. The joy on their faces was a dagger in Bill's heart. He realized that some love stories are meant to be watched only from the sidelines. At the annual company awards, a new manager questioned why they kept an old relic like Bill around. Just then, the host's voice boomed. "The salesman of the year is Bill Porter." The room erupted. Shackled by cerebral palsy his whole life, Bill had written his own legend. "I love being a salesman," he said, honoring the father and mother who taught him patience and persistence. After the party, Bill visited his first customer. Her son answered, informing him she had passed away. When Bill saw a storage room piled high with years of his products, far more than she could ever use, the devastating truth hit him. She wasn't just buying supplies, she was buying her support for him, a quiet, unspoken love. But the tide of progress waits for no one. As the internet rose, door-to-door sales were replaced by emails. Bill's office became a storage closet, and his catalog was discarded. He was a man walking against the current. After being hit by a bus, Bill stubbornly refused help with his medical bills, eventually selling his house to pay them. When he discovered his friend Shell had bought the house to rent it back to him cheaply, his fierce pride mistook her kindness for pity. He broke off the friendship until Shell tearfully reminded him, friends are supposed to help each other. Watching the modern world of headsets and laptops from a diner booth, Bill finally made peace with himself. His era was over. He resigned after 42 years of service. Just as he prepared for a quiet life, a man knocked on his door. The boy he had once scared, now a newspaper editor. He wanted to tell Bill's story. The resulting headline captivated the city. It was only when he disappeared that we noticed he was there. The article was a wake-up call. People realized Bill wasn't just a salesman. He was a vital link, a witness to their lives, and a thread that tied the community together. Moved by the story, executives rehired Bill. Finally letting down his wall of dignity, Bill accepted Shell's help and returned to his route. His steps were still unsteady, but his eyes were warmer than ever. Every door he knocked on was no longer just for a sale, but for the most fundamental gift of all, simple human connection. This true story reminds us that while you can't choose your fate, you can choose to walk your own path of glory.